Right now, someone in your life is pulling a string attached to the back of your skull, and you are nodding along like that is your own idea. You felt it this morning, that tight knot in your stomach, when you checked your phone and saw a message that shifted your entire mood before you even finished reading it. You felt it last week when someone raised their voice and you shrank, not physically, but something inside you folded. You felt it last night when you changed your opinion mid-sentence because you saw a flicker of disapproval on someone's face. You are being operated, not by some grand conspiracy, by ordinary people who have learned, most of them unconsciously, that you are a machine with exposed buttons, and every single day they are pressing those buttons to get what they want from you. Your anger, your guilt, your compliance, your silence. Machiavelli identified this 5 centuries ago, and he did not sugarcoat it. He said that the majority of men are satisfied with appearances as though they were realities, which means most people do not even realize they are being controlled because the strings are invisible and the puppet master looks like a friend, a lover, a colleague. But here is what keeps me up at night. The people controlling you are not evil geniuses. They are average. They are running basic, predictable patterns on you, and it is working because you never learned the counter moves. Tonight that changes. There are 9 psychological laws buried in the writings of Machiavelli, scattered across the darkest research in behavioral science, that when internalized do not just protect you from manipulation. They make you impossible to control entirely. Not difficult, not resistant, impossible, like trying to grab smoke with your fist. But I need to warn you about something before we begin. These laws will cost you something. They will cost you the comfort of being agreeable. They will cost you the warmth of being easy to read. Some of the people in your life will not recognize you after this, and a few of them will not like what they see. If that price is too steep, leave now. If you are still here, then you already know the price of staying controllable is higher than the price of becoming free. Let us start where all control starts, with a man who refused to be a puppet in a court full of them. In 52, Italy was a butcher's table. City-states were carved up by foreign powers and local tyrants. Everyone was a puppet of someone. The Pope pulled strings on the kings. The kings pulled strings on the generals. The generals pulled strings on the people. Everyone danced for someone else. Everyone except one man, Cesare Borgia. Now history remembers Borgia as a villain, and maybe he was. But Machiavelli, who observed him firsthand, saw something that transcended morality. He saw a man who could not be read. Borgia would sit in a room full of ambassadors, each one probing, flattering, threatening, trying to figure out what he wanted, what he feared, what would make him move. And Borgia gave them nothing. His face was stone. His words were few. His emotions were a locked vault. And because nobody could figure out what moved him, nobody could figure out how to move him. Machiavelli wrote about this with something close to awe. He noted that Borgia's power did not come from his army or his father, the Pope. It came from the fact that his internal world was completely invisible to the outside. He was a black box, and the black box cannot be hacked. That is the foundation of everything you are about to learn. Control is only possible when the controller can see the wiring. Your job is to hide the wiring, not to rip it out, not to pretend you have no emotions, but to choose with surgical precision who gets to see what and when. This is not sociopathy. This is sovereignty, and the difference between the two is intention. A sociopath hides to exploit. A sovereign hides to protect. You are going to learn to protect yourself so completely that manipulation bounces off you like rain off granite. The first law. Every person you interact with is running a silent diagnostic on you. They are watching what makes you laugh too hard, what makes you go quiet, what topics make your voice change pitch, what criticisms make you flinch. They are not doing this maliciously most of the time. It is hardwired. Humans are social predators. We scan for vulnerability the way a wolf scans a herd for a limp. And you have been limping in plain sight your entire life. When someone says something cutting and your face flushes, you just handed them a weapon. When someone withdraws their attention and you immediately chase them with a text, you just showed them the leash. When someone questions your intelligence and you launch into a frantic defense listing your credentials, you just confirm that intelligence is your insecurity. Every emotional reaction you display in the wrong context is a piece of your source code being handed to someone who may not deserve it. The law of emotional opacity is not about feeling nothing. That is impossible, and attempting it will destroy you from the inside. It is about creating a buffer zone between what you feel and what you display. Think of it like a broadcast delay on live television. The event happens inside you, but you hold it for 3 seconds before you decide whether the world gets to see it. In those 3 seconds, you ask one question: does showing this emotion serve me, or does it serve them? If your boss criticizes your work and you feel the heat of shame crawling up your neck, pause. Does displaying that shame help you? No. It signals that you are easy to rattle. It invites more criticism because they now know it lands. Instead, you hold the pause. You keep your face neutral. You say, tell me specifically what needs to change. You have taken the emotional charge out of the exchange and replaced it with function. You have denied them the satisfaction of seeing you bleed. Practice this everywhere. When your partner says something designed to provoke you, do not give them the flinch. When a stranger is rude, do not give them the anger. Let your internal world be a country with closed borders. Visitors need a visa, and very few should qualify. The second law attacks something you do every single day without realizing it is destroying you. You agree when you do not actually agree. Someone says something you find stupid, inaccurate, or offensive, and you nod. You say, yeah, I see what you mean. You smile. You move on. You think you are being polite. You think you are keeping the peace. But what you are actually doing is training every person around you to believe that your mind is open territory, that anyone can plant a flag in your head and you will salute it. Machiavelli observed that a prince who tries to please everyone pleases no one and loses himself in the process. When you agree with things you do not believe, you are not avoiding conflict. You are inviting a much worse kind of conflict, the internal kind. The kind where you lie in bed at night and feel a quiet self-contempt because you know you surrendered a piece of yourself to avoid 10 seconds of discomfort. Controlled disagreement is the act of calmly, without aggression, without apology, stating that you see it differently, not arguing, not debating. Simply refusing to nod when your neck does not want to nod. The next time someone makes a claim you disagree with, do not fight them, but do not fake agreement. Say, I actually see that differently. Then, stop talking. Do not explain unless they ask. Do not justify. Just let the statement sit in the air like a monument. You will feel the discomfort. You will feel the urge to soften it, to add a laughing, just my opinion. Resist. That discomfort is the feeling of your spine straightening for the first time. People will react strangely at first. They are not used to you pushing back. Some will respect you more immediately. Others will push harder to see if you fold. Do not fold. The moment they realize that your agreement cannot be purchased cheaply, they begin to treat your opinion as something with weight. And a person whose opinion carries weight is a person who cannot be dismissed, bulldozed, or controlled. You have just reclaimed the first 2 borders of your psychological territory. Now, here is where most people sabotage themselves without even knowing they are doing it. Someone sends you a message that makes your blood pressure spike. Maybe it is passive-aggressive. Maybe it is an accusation. Maybe it is a demand disguised as a question. And what do? You respond instantly. Your thumbs are moving before your brain has even finished processing the words. You fire back a reply loaded with emotion, loaded with defensiveness, loaded with the raw, unfiltered energy of a person who has just been poked in a wound. And in that moment, you have lost something you cannot get back. You have shown them your speed, and your speed is your leash. This is the third law, the law of the delayed response. Machiavelli understood timing better than almost any strategist who ever lived. He wrote that the one who wishes to be obeyed must know how to command, and commanding is not about force. It is about tempo. When you respond instantly to provocation, you are operating on their clock. They set the rhythm and you danced to it. They threw the ball and you fetched it like a trained animal. But when you delay, something extraordinary happens in the other person's psychology. They begin to fill the silence with their own anxiety. They start wondering, did I go too far? Is he angry? Is she planning something? What is happening? The silence becomes a mirror, and they are forced to stare at their own reflection. A manipulator's greatest weapon is momentum. They hit you fast, they hit you emotional, and they expect an immediate reaction because immediate reactions are always sloppy. They are always revealing. They always contain more truth than you intended to share. When you delay your response by an hour, by a day, by 3 days, you strip them of that momentum. You force them to sit in uncertainty. And uncertainty is the one thing a controlling person cannot tolerate, because control requires predictability, and you just became unpredictable. Start practicing this in small ways. When someone sends a provocative text, put the phone face down, walk away, let it breathe. When you come back to it in 2 hours, notice how different your response is. The version you would have sent immediately was a grenade with a pin pulled. The version you send after 2 hours is a calculated chess move. The first version serves their agenda. The second version serves yours. In meetings, when someone throws a loaded question at you designed to put you on the spot, do not rush to answer. Let 3 full seconds of silence pass. Look at them. Let them feel the weight of their own question hanging in the air. Then speak slowly and deliberately. This does 2 things. It shows that you are not afraid of the silence, which signals dominance, and it ensures that every word that comes out of your mouth has been chosen, not vomited. Speed is the enemy of sovereignty. The fastest person in the room is almost always the most controlled person in the room, not controlled as in disciplined, controlled as in being operated by someone else's tempo. Slow down. Make them wait. Make them wonder. Your time is not their commodity. The 4th law is the most counterintuitive, and that is exactly why it works so devastatingly well. Every day you're bombarded with provocations, small ones, a co-worker's snide comment, a family member's passive jab, a stranger's rudeness, an email with a tone that makes your jaw clench. And your instinct, the one that has been trained into you since you were a child, is to address every single one, to correct the record, to stand up for yourself, to make sure nobody gets away with disrespecting you. That instinct is a trap. Machiavelli observed that a wise prince must know which battles to fight, and more importantly, which battles to walk past as though they do not exist. This is the law of chosen blindness, not the blindness of ignorance, the blindness of strategy. When you react to every provocation, you are telling the world that your attention is cheap, that anyone, no matter how insignificant, can hijack your focus simply by poking you. You become a machine that is activated by any hand that reaches for the button. But when you choose not to see something, when you let a petty insult float past you as if it were spoken in a language you do not understand, you are making a statement so powerful that it reshapes the entire dynamic. You are saying that this person and their opinion are so far beneath your radar that the signal does not even register. That is not passivity. That is devastation. Think about the most powerful person you have ever met. Did they respond to every criticism? Did they engage with every troll? Did they chase down every whispered rumor? No, they moved through the world as if 90% of the noise simply did not exist for them. And because they treated it as non-existent, it became non-existent. Their attention was a spotlight. Whatever it landed on became important. Whatever it passed over became irrelevant. You must become that spotlight. Choose with extreme precision what earns your reaction. A direct threat to your livelihood, react. A meaningful relationship in genuine crisis, react. A co-worker who made a sarcastic remark about your presentation, blind. A stranger on the internet who called you a name, blind. An acquaintance who gossips about you behind your back, blind. Not because you are weak, but because your energy is a finite and precious resource, and you refuse to spend it on people who could not afford to buy a minute of your time. Every reaction you withhold from an unworthy provocation is a deposit into your own power reserve. save it, compound it, deploy it only when the stakes justify the expenditure. Now comes the fifth law, and this one will make the people who think they know you deeply uncomfortable. Human beings are pattern recognition machines. Your brain is constantly predicting what comes next based on what came before. This is how you navigate the world. This is also how other people navigate you. Your friends know what you will order at a restaurant. Your partner knows what you will say when you are tired. Your boss knows how you will react to pressure. Your enemies know exactly what buttons to push because you push them the same way every single time. You are a script that everyone around you has already memorized. And a memorized script is a controlled script. The law of pattern disruption is the decision to become illegible, not random, not chaotic. Illegible, there is a difference. A random person is unstable and instability is weakness. An illegible person is stable but unreadable. They are consistent in their values but unpredictable in their methods. Machiavelli wrote that a prince should be like both the lion and the fox. The lion cannot protect himself from traps, and the fox cannot defend himself from wolves. You must be both. But more importantly, nobody should know on any given day which one they are dealing with. If you are always the lion, they set traps. If you are always the fox, they send wolves. If they do not know which one you are today, they hesitate. And hesitation in your opponent is your greatest advantage. Start breaking your own patterns deliberately. If you always respond to conflict with heat, try ice. If you always say yes to social invitations, say no to the next 3 without explanation. If you are always the first to reach out, go silent. If you always explain your reasoning, simply state your decision and offer nothing else. Watch what happens. The people around you will become disoriented. Not because you are being cruel, but because the mental model they built of you no longer works. They have to rebuild it from scratch. And while they are rebuilding, while they are recalibrating, while they are trying to figure out who you are now, you are free. You are operating in the gap between their expectation and your reality. And in that gap, you are untouchable. There is a question you need to sit with before we go further. Think about the person whose attention you crave most in your life. Your partner, your best friend, your parent, your mentor. Now ask yourself this: when was the last time they had to wonder where you were? When was the last time they felt the absence of you? If you cannot remember, that is the problem. You have made yourself so available, so constantly present, so reliably there that your existence in their world has become like furniture. You are the chair in the corner of the room. Nobody thinks about the chair. Nobody notices the chair. But the moment you remove the chair and someone reaches back to sit down and there is nothing there, suddenly that chair is the most important object in the house. This is the sixth law, the law of manufactured distance. And it might be the most difficult one for you to execute because everything inside you has been conditioned to believe that presence equals value, that showing up equals loyalty, that being available equals being loved. Machiavelli understood a principle of human nature that most people spend their entire lives running from. He understood that desire is born from absence, not from proximity. When you are always there, you are taken for granted. Not because people are evil, but because the human brain is wired to conserve energy. It stops paying attention to things that are constant. Your brain does not notice the hum of the refrigerator until it stops. Then suddenly, the silence is deafening. You need to become the silence. Not permanently. Not through cruelty or game playing. Through strategic rhythm. You must learn to oscillate between warmth and distance, between presence and absence, between being fully engaged and being completely elsewhere. When you are present, be devastatingly present. Look them in the eye. Listen with your whole body. Make them feel like the center of the universe. And then withdraw. Not with drama, not with a slammed door or a passive-aggressive text. Just quietly redirect your energy elsewhere. Go build something. Go disappear into your work. Go take a trip. Go spend a weekend with your phone off. What happens in that space is alchemy. The person who took you for granted begins to feel a draft. Something is missing. The room feels different. Their mind starts filling in the blanks. What is he doing? Why hasn't she called? Is everything okay? Are they upset with me? This is not manipulation in the way most people understand it. This is the natural consequence of scarcity. Diamonds are not valuable because of their chemical composition. Carbon is one of the most common elements on Earth. Diamonds are valuable because they are rare. Your attention, your time, your emotional energy, these are your diamonds, and you have been scattering them on the sidewalk like pennies. Pick them up, guard them, distribute them with intention. There is a deeper layer to this that most people miss. Manufactured distance is not just about how others perceive you. It is about how you perceive yourself. When you are constantly enmeshed in other people's lives, constantly responding, constantly available, constantly performing the role of the reliable one, you lose contact with yourself. You forget what your own thoughts sound like when they are not shaped by the expectations of others. You forget what you actually want versus what you have been trained to want by the people around you. Distance gives you the space to hear your own voice again. It gives you the room to remember that you existed before this relationship, before this job, before this social circle, and you will exist after it. That realization is not cold. It is the warmest thing you will ever feel because it is the warmth of self-possession. When you return from that distance, when you re-enter the room, you do not come back as the same person. You come back with something that everyone in the room can sense, but nobody can name. You come back with weight. You come back with the energy of a person who has somewhere else to be, and that energy changes everything. Suddenly your opinions matter more. Suddenly your laughter feels like a gift. Suddenly your presence is not furniture, it is an event. Machiavelli saw this principle play out in the courts of Florence and Rome. The advisors who were always hovering, always available, always eager, were dismissed as servants. The ones who appeared only when summoned, who seemed to have a rich and mysterious life beyond the court, were treated as equals. Proximity without scarcity is servitude. Proximity with scarcity is power. Learn the rhythm. Give, then withdraw. Shine, then go dark. Be there, then vanish. Let them feel the temperature change. Let them reach for you and find empty air. When they find you again, they will hold on tighter, not because you tricked them, but because they finally realized what they had. And if they do not reach for you at all, then you have your answer. And that answer, painful as it is, has set you free. Now the seventh law. And this one is a weapon you can deploy in any conversation starting today. Think about the last time someone put you on the defensive. Maybe it was a question. Why are you always like this? Why didn't you do what I asked? What is wrong with you? What were you thinking? Notice the structure. They are asking questions. You are providing answers. And in that dynamic lies the entire architecture of control. The person asking the questions is the prosecutor. The person answering the questions is the defendant. The prosecutor decides the direction of the conversation. The defendant follows. The prosecutor frames the reality. The defendant accepts the frame. Every time you answer an accusatory question, you are stepping into a courtroom you did not build, sitting in a chair you did not choose, and defending yourself against charges you did not agree to. Machiavelli understood that the frame of a conversation determines its outcome before a single substantive word is spoken. Whoever sets the frame wins, and the frame is set by whoever is asking the questions. The seventh law is the law of reverse interrogation. It is the practice of refusing the defendant's chair and seizing the prosecutor's bench. Not through aggression, not through shouting louder. Through redirection. Someone says to you, "Why can't you ever be on time?" The old you would stammer through an excuse. Traffic, my alarm, I was finishing something. Every word out of your mouth is a brick in the prison they are building around you. The new you pauses, holds eye contact, and says, "What is it about my timing that creates this much tension for you?" Read that again. What is it about my timing that creates this much tension for you? You did not answer the question. You did not defend yourself. You did not accept the premise that you are the problem. You redirected the entire spotlight onto their emotional reaction. Suddenly, we are not talking about your lateness. We are talking about their need to control, their anxiety, their disproportionate response. They came into the conversation holding a sword. You just took it out of their hand and asked them why they felt the need to carry it. This works because most accusations are not really about the content. They are about the emotion behind the content. When someone asks, "Why are you always like this?" they are not conducting a factual inquiry. They are venting frustration, and they are using the question format to disguise their aggression as reason. When you answer the content, you miss the real dynamic. When you address the emotion behind the question, you expose the real dynamic, and exposure is the one thing a manipulator cannot survive. Here are the phrases that become your arsenal. You seem very invested in this. Why is that? What would it mean for you if that were true? That is an interesting way to frame it. What made you choose those words? I notice you bring this up often. What is driving that? Each of these phrases does the same thing. It takes the camera that was pointed at you and swings it around to face them. It forces them to analyze their own behavior instead of dissecting yours. This is not deflection. Deflection is dodging the question and running. This is redirection. You are standing your ground and changing the terms of engagement. And the most powerful part is the calm with which you deliver it. You do not raise your voice. You do not speed up. You speak slowly, clearly, as if you are genuinely curious about their psychological state, as if they are the specimen under observation, not you. Machiavelli wrote about the importance of controlling the narrative, and this is narrative control at the molecular level. You are not arguing about what happened. You are redefining what this conversation is actually about. The person who defines the conversation controls the outcome. When they say you are being defensive, you say, "What does it serve you to label me that way?" When they say you are overreacting, you say, "By whose standard?" When they say everyone thinks you are wrong, you say, "Who specifically and why does their consensus matter more to you than my actual perspective?" Each response is a door that you refuse to walk through. They are trying to herd you into a room where you are small and they are big. You are standing in the hallway saying, "No, I choose which room I enter." This takes practice. Your old programming will scream at you to answer, to explain, to justify. That programming was installed in you when you were 5 years old, sitting in front of a teacher or a parent who demanded an explanation. You are not 5 anymore. You do not owe anyone an account of your inner world simply because they raised their voice and phrased their aggression as a question. Reserve your explanations for people who have earned them. For everyone else, give them the mirror. Let them see themselves. It is the most disorienting and most liberating thing you will ever do in a conversation. Why can you be controlled? Let's peel back the layers until we hit the raw nerve. Why can your boss control you? Because you need the money. Why can your partner control you? Because you need their love. Why can society control you? Because you need its validation. Every string attached to you is tied to a need inside you. And as long as those needs are desperate, you will be a slave. The moment you signal that you cannot live without something, you have handed the world the remote control to your life. This is the 8th law, the law of internal sovereignty. It is the most brutal and the most necessary law of all. Machiavelli understood that dependence is the root of all vulnerability. A prince who relies on mercenaries will be betrayed. A prince who relies on the goodwill of others will be disappointed. A prince who relies on himself is invincible. This does not mean you become a hermit. It does not mean you stop loving people or working for people. It means you change the nature of the transaction. You move from, "I need this to survive," to, "I choose this because it serves my mission." There is a profound difference. Think about the person who is terrified of losing their job. They stay late. They laugh at bad jokes. They tolerate disrespect. They are operating from fear. Now think about the person who has 6 months of expenses saved, a side hustle growing, and skills that are in high demand. They still do the job, but they do it differently. They speak up in meetings. They set boundaries. They walk with a different posture. Why? Because they know they can walk away. Their compliance is a choice, not a cage. That is internal sovereignty. It is the quiet knowledge that you will be okay no matter what happens. When you build this kind of resilience, you stop emitting the scent of prey. Manipulators smell neediness the way sharks smell blood. When you stop bleeding neediness, they stop biting. They sense that their usual leverage, the threat of withdrawal, the threat of disapproval, has no power over you. You look at them and say, "I want you in my life, but I do not need you to breathe." That distinction changes everything. It shifts the power dynamic from a hierarchy to a partnership. But how do you build this? You start by systematically dismantling your dependencies. You diversify your emotional portfolio. If your partner is the only source of your happiness, you are in danger. Build friendships. Build a passion. Build a relationship with yourself that is so rich and interesting that being alone feels like a luxury, not a punishment. Diversify your financial portfolio. Build skills that no one can take away. Diversify your identity. If you are only your job title, you are fragile. Be more. Be an athlete. Be a thinker. Be a thinker. Be a creator. When you have multiple pillars supporting your self-worth, knocking one down does not collapse the temple. You just shift the weight. This is anti-fragility. This is becoming unkillable. And when you are unkillable, you become uncontrollable. And this leads us to the final, most terrifying law, the law of the open door. This is the ultimate test of your sovereignty. It is the willingness to lose everything rather than submit. It is the realization that the only true power you have in any negotiation, whether it is a business deal or a marriage, is your ability to walk away and mean it. Most people bluff. They threaten to leave, they pack a bag, they make a scene. But everyone knows they will be back. The manipulator knows it. The boss knows it. And because they know it, they do not change. They call your bluff. But the Machiavellian, the sovereign individual, does not bluff. They do not threaten. They assess. They calculate the cost of staying versus the cost of leaving. And when the cost of staying becomes too high, when it costs them their dignity, their freedom, their peace, they simply leave. No drama, no shouting, just the sound of a door closing and not opening again. Machiavelli wrote that it is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. In modern terms, this means it is better to be respected than liked. And nothing commands respect like the capacity to walk away when people know that you have a line, and that crossing that line means losing you forever. They treat that line with reverence. They walk carefully around it. They police their own behavior because they know you will not do it for them. You become the high-value asset that must be protected, not the guaranteed asset that can be exploited. This law requires you to make peace with loss. You have to be willing to be the villain in their story. You have to be willing to be misunderstood. You have to be willing to be low for a season. But the alternative is to be a prisoner in a cell with the door unlocked, complaining about the view. The open door is not just about leaving toxic situations. It is about living with the door open in your mind. It is waking up every day and choosing your life again, knowing you could leave it if you wanted to. That choice makes your commitment real. It makes your love real. It makes your work real, because it is given freely, not extracted by fear. When you live by the law of the open door, you are dangerous. You are dangerous to anyone who wants to control you because you have removed the only weapon they have, the fear of loss. You have stared into the abyss of the unknown and decided it is less frightening than the cage of the known. And once you make that decision, once you cross that threshold, you are free, truly, terrifyingly, magnificently free. You now possess the 9 fragments of the map, but a map is useless if you do not know how to walk the territory. Most people will take 1 or 2 of these laws and treat them like parlor tricks. They will delay a text message to make a girl like them. They will use reverse interrogation to win an argument with a waiter. That is amateur hour. That is using a nuclear reactor to toast bread. Machiavelli did not write The Prince to teach people how to be annoying. He wrote it to teach them how to be sovereign. The true power of these laws is not in their isolation. It is in their unification. When you combine emotional opacity with the open door, you become terrifyingly stable. When you combine pattern disruption with manufactured distance, you become a myth. You stop being a person that things happen to, and you become an event that happens to others. Let's look at how this system operates in real time. Imagine you are in a high-stakes negotiation. It could be for a salary raise. It could be the end of a relationship. It could be a business crisis. The old you would be sweating. You would be talking too fast, trying to explain, trying to justify, desperate for the other person to agree with you. Your neediness would be filling the room like a bad smell. Now imagine the sovereign you. You enter the room. You are not cold, but you are opaque, Law 1. You are pleasant, but your agreement is not automatic, Law 2. They make an aggressive offer or an accusation. You do not answer immediately. You let the silence stretch for 5 seconds, Law 3. You ignore the petty insult they slipped in at the end, Law 4. You ask them a question about their own motives instead of defending yours, Law 7. And all the while, deep in your core, you know that you can walk away from this table and be perfectly fine, Law 9. Do you see the difference? In the first scenario, you are fighting for survival. In the second scenario, you are conducting an orchestra. You are not trying to control them. You are controlling yourself so completely that their attempts to control you simply slide off. You become frictionless. And because you are frictionless, you cannot be grasped. Let us imprint these laws into your mind one last time before you step back into the chaos. Law 1, emotional opacity. Never let them see the wiring. If they can't see what hurts you, they can't hurt you. Law 2, controls disagreement. Stop nodding. Your agreement is a currency. Do not devalue it by spending it on things you don't believe. Law 3, the delayed response. Speed is submission. Force them to wait for your rhythm. Law 4, chosen blindness. Do not see every insult. Your attention is a spotlight. Only shine it on what matters. Law 5, pattern disruption. Be illegible. If they can predict you, they can trap you. Become the glitch in their matrix. Law 6, manufactured distance. Presence without scarcity is worthless. Withdraw to increase your value. Law 7, reverse interrogation. Never sit in the defendant's chair. When they question you, question their motive. Law 8, internal sovereignty. Kill your dependencies. If you need nothing from them, they have no leverage. Law 9, the open door. The ultimate power is the ability to walk away and mean it. This is not a self-help list. This is a declaration of independence. I want to leave you with a final image. In 1513, Machiavelli was exiled. He was stripped of his position, tortured on the rack, his arms dislocated, his body broken. He was thrown into a dungeon and left to rot. By all accounts, he should have been a broken man. He should have begged the Medici family for mercy. He should have apologized. He should have withered away in obscurity. But Machiavelli possessed an internal fortress that no torture rack could touch. He retreated to his small farm, and every evening he would take off his mud-stained work clothes, put on the regal robes of his former office, sit at his desk, and enter the ancient courts of old men. He wrote. He analyzed. He turned his tragedy into the sharpest weapon of political philosophy the world has ever seen. He did not let his circumstances control him. He did not let his enemies define him. He refused to be a victim. He chose to be a master. He looked at the world that tried to crush him, and he dissected it. He understood it better than the people who were ruling it. And because of that, 500 years later, the Medicis are a footnote in history books. But Machiavelli is an adjective in every language on earth. That is the ultimate victory. Not money, not fame, but the triumph of the sovereign mind over the chaos of fortune. You have the same choice today. You can go back to being a puppet. You can go back to checking your phone every 3 minutes, begging for validation, explaining yourself to people who don't care, and reacting to every pull of the string. It is easy. It is comfortable. And it is a cage. Or you can step into the cold. You can embrace the silence. You can become the person who sees the strings instead of feeling them. It will be lonely at first. Power always is. But the view from the throne of your own mind is worth the price of admission. If this philosophy resonates with the darker, deeper part of your mind, the part that is tired of performing for others, then you know what to do. Subscribe, but not because I asked you to. Subscribe because you are done being a prey animal in a world of predators. Subscribe to signal to yourself that the training has begun. Turn on the notifications. We are just getting started. The next lesson will show you how to punish disrespect without saying a word. You do not want to miss it. Now put down the phone, close the door, and do not explain yourself to anyone.